Today we're going to talk about refurbishing beds. This is probably the most important thing you can do before you get any plants in the ground or any seeds in the ground. In this case, this is where tomatoes are going to be this year and peppers. What we have is vermiculite. We're going to use peat moss and we're going to use our normal topsoil dirt to mix in with this. And so what we have to do is we'll dig a lot of this up, put it in our wheelbarrow, mix it up, pull out any of the roots from the remnants of last few years so we can aerate the soil. We're not using the broad fork today, we're not using the aeration tools, we're just doing straight up if this is all you had, because we're showing that you don't need a lot of tools to garden. This simple shovel is enough to get you going. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started.
With the roots that he pulls up and he's throwing in that great big planter, they will break down over time, so that's going to go right into our compost pile because we have other stuff that's decomposing that we can use once it's done. We've got a bunch of wood chips and shredded up paper and a bunch of other stuff because you want to have your greens and browns to get a good mixture when you're doing compost, and you want to make sure that you got the right atmosphere for it and the right organisms to come in and help break that soil down. So anytime you find the little pill bugs somewhere and you can lay an apple down on the ground or something and get them to go on that apple and then relocate them, go put them in your compost bin. Worms are also another great thing to add to the compost bin if you have an overabundance of worms. But the little pill bugs, some people call them roly-polies, but they work great for breaking that stuff down. So take advantage of that. If you have them, let them do the work for you. And as you can see, Kaya's pulling out some big roots that don't need to be in there. And if you look, that soil is nice and dark and rich. And we're going to be adding sphagnum and vermiculite to the soil because we want to help retain the moisture. And if you notice up above him, we have our PVC pipe poles. We're getting ready to redo all the lines for our shade cloth. We had kind of a disaster because we didn't take it down last winter because it lasted while we were still growing. We kept it up. This year we'll make sure we take it down because the winter months did raise havoc with the shade cloth, as you can tell by the pile.
And as you can see here, guys, we do have worms in this bed, which means they are breaking down the organic matter in here and making it fertile, which is exactly what we want. This is a beautiful worm here.
So that's going to be some awesome bedding for our vegetable plants to be going into. And we're getting really excited. We are actually running about 2 weeks behind what we normally do out in the garden. Normally by now we're already got stuff in the ground and got it growing on and everything else. We do have a bunch of herbs planted and they are growing, but the tomatoes, peppers, squash, all of that is up and coming, and probably within the next week or two we'll be getting a lot of that stuff planted. Also getting ready to do some more beans and peas, so we'll be keeping you updated. And as he said, a good shovel sometimes is all you need. You don't need a lot of fancy tools to do your gardening. And if you're doing a lot of herbs and you do a lot of companion planting, or just like these little 4x4 beds, you can grow a lot of different things in one raised bed. And we're going to be doing a lot more this year, showing you guys how to do more stuff vertically, so that way you can grow more food into a small space. And he's working all sides of this bed. And as you can tell, as he turns it over, it's really nice and rich. But we want good, rich, well-draining soil, and that's what we're after. Every year when we do our soil mixture up, it always consists of our sphagnum peat moss and a good topsoil, and we usually use vermiculite, and we will add a lot of compost in the mixture. He's got another nice little fat juicy worm there.
I found about 5 of them so far when I was just digging through this.
So we don't want anybody digging in our garden for fish worms. We need them for the garden. So we're glad that they're in there, and we hope that they multiply.
So the one thing you can tell the difference too between good soil is you want it nice and dark, but you want to see organisms living within the soil. With those beds, we did not have any worms in there, which means we had to rebuild from scratch, get new compost, manure, fertilizer. We had to redo these entirely from the ground up.
So it's basically like starting over.
And you should probably refurbish at least every year, if no later than 2 years. I kind of let these go by about 3 years, and I think that's why some of our produce didn't do as well on that side, as we noticed that the harvests were good here, but those 3 did not produce. So we've got a lot of the roots out of this. Now, everything I've dug up here, we gotta kind of sift through. That's why it's good to have a wheelbarrow or a pile somewhere you can keep track, but you're also going to be using this to mix.
Another thing some people do is you can take old screen or even old windows and put screen on it to make little sanding and sifting devices to help break up your dirt. We do a lot of that stuff by hand. We did have a screen. In fact, we have a round screen behind him that we've got some other stuff in, but those screens make it really nice too for when you're breaking that dirt up. But when you got these big clumps and stuff that you're working with, and you really want to get down into it to get all the extra roots out that you don't need in there, it's better to just use your hands and let your fingers do the dirty work. That's why you got to get dirty in a garden bed. Now, they do make a sphagnum that already has vermiculite in it or perlite in it. There's also, some people use Pro Mix, and you can use that and mix it in with your garden bed dirt as well. We like the very fine vermiculite that almost looks like sand. I've used the thicker stuff before, but it looks more like little pieces of foam, whereas this other stuff, it's easier to work with, and it works into the soil very, very nicely. And when I'm adding fertilizer to the soil on all the beds, you want to keep in mind that you need to feed your soil, and every year as you use them over and over, they're going to be lacking a few nutrients, and sometimes it's good to just do a test to see what you might need to be putting in your soil. But as a general rule, when I'm getting ready to do seedlings, I will always make sure that I will put some blood meal and some bone meal and a little bit of all-purpose fertilizer and mix that together. And I'll put that in the top and rake it in really well, and I'll water it in unless I know a rain's coming. If it's scheduled for a rain, I'll let the rainwater pound that stuff in, and then I'll go back the next day and rake it in again and get it down in the ground a little bit more. And when I get ready to plant whatever vegetables I'm planting, then I can switch it up and do whatever kind of experiments I want with different types of fertilizer. The one thing that I'm going to do a little bit different this year with some of the tomatoes, and I did it when I was a kid growing up, Mom kind of believed in it. A lot of people put sardines in the planting hole of tomatoes. And they also put pieces of banana peels or pieces of banana in the planting hole when they're doing a tomato. So something about the breaking down of the fish is a really great fertilizer for a tomato plant.
We'll start using a little bit of vermiculite.
Like I said, ours, the kind that I buy, is very fine, almost looks like a fine play sand. And if you're going to be working with a lot of it, it's a good idea to wear a mask, because the dust is not a good thing to be breathing.
Nope.
Now, if we wouldn't have found any worms or anything growing or already in that bed, we probably would have added some of the black cow manure to the mixture. But since there's several worms already in there, we're not going to worry about anything like that. If you listen, you can hear some of our late night bird friends doing their things.
And then we'll rake this one up to smooth it out. Throw fertilizer in there, and we'll go from there. And then we just got 2 more of these, so we'll rinse, repeat, do the same process. And then if you stay tuned, you'll see how we smooth this out, as well as throw fertilizer in here, and then it's ready to go. Alright, so what we're having here is, once we finish refurbishing the beds and getting all the new soil nutrients in and getting fertilizer on the top, we're slowly raking it to level it, but we're also slowly working to get the fertilizer in to the ground a little bit underneath. That way, when we begin the process of planting our peppers, tomatoes, pretty much anything that you're gonna do, this soil is ready to go. We got a nice rainstorm coming up, and that should help settle everything. That way the following day we'll be able to go ahead and proceed with getting everything in the ground and going. It's very important to refurbish your beds, preferably every year. You can probably get away with it for two years, but the reason why you really want to refurbish these is you want loose soil that's aerated, and this is also a great way to make sure you spread your new compost as well as any new fertilizer as you go. And as you can see, she's getting it all nice and level, which will make a nice difference.
The other thing you want to remember, if you're using straw mulch from year to year, it can go into the ground. It will decompose over time and add some nutrients to your soil as well. So you'll see some straw pieces in here after we plant everything and we give it a good soak. We will put about 4 to 6 inches of new mulch on everything to help retain the moisture. bit.
So in one of our previous videos, this is also the sage plant section where we had 2 massive sage plants. We've refurbished this entirely to restore all the nutrients that had been lost. And as we were digging this up, we found tons and tons of worms, which if you find worms while you're doing this, that is a positive sign that this bed is going to be incredibly fertile, because the more worms you have, the more organic matter is being broken down within these beds and provides a lot more aeration and new fertile earth for these plants to really digest and get stronger.
Now you'll notice when you use a rake, if you turn it over and use the back side of it, you can help smooth it out, makes it a lot easier.
And that concludes our quick guide on refurbishing. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, guys, for more gardening content. We appreciate you guys. Have a wonderful day.